Welcome to the Goodyear Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We're excited to have you be a part of this important public process. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to address the commission on both non-agenda and agenda items. The agendas and speaker request cards are located in the back of the council chambers. You must fill out a speaker request card in order to address the commission. Please hand in your completed card to a city staff member. You may check the "I do not wish to speak" option on the card. This allows you to still voice your opinion on an item on the record without having to speak. In accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, please contact a staff member if you need any assistance. Public comment on a non-agenda item will take place during the citizen comment portion of the evening. These are items that don't appear on tonight's formal agenda. The commission secretary will call your name when it's time for you to speak. At that time, please approach the podium and tell us your name for the record. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. The timer is on the screens visible from the podium. Note that you may also choose not to speak if other speakers before you have said what you wanted to say. Shouting, cheering, and loud noises will not be tolerated, and violators may be removed for disrupting the meeting. Goodyear Planning and Zoning Commission meetings stream live on YouTube and online at goodyearaz.gov. Follow the city's social media pages so you don't miss out on all that's happening in Goodyear. Thank you for coming to this meeting and being an active part of your city. And remember, it's a great time to be in Goodyear.
All right. Good evening. The Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Wednesday, April 12th, 2023 is called to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the secretary please note the roll?
Absolutely. Commissioner Booth is present, Commissioner Hegedus is present, Commissioner Hamilton is present, Commissioner Wang is present, Vice Chairman Clymer is present, Chairman Kish is present, Commissioner Sambito is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, a vote shall be taken to excuse members unable to attend due to extenuating circumstances. May I please have a motion and a second to excuse Commissioner Sambito? I have a motion from Commissioner Booth and a second from Vice Chairman Clymer. Please enter your vote.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 1 is to approve the draft minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on March 8th, 2023. May I have a motion and a second? I have a motion from Commissioner Hegedus. And I have a second from Commissioner Hamilton. Please enter your vote.
Motion passed.
At this time, it is now time for citizens who would like to address the Planning and Zoning Commission on any non-agenda items. Are there any speaker cards?
I've not received any.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak on a non-agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move forward. This is an opportunity for the commission members to disclose any ex parte communications they may have had prior to this meeting or any other item scheduled for discussion on this agenda. Are there any members with ex parte communications? No. Seeing none, we will move forward. Agenda item number 2 is the Ballpark Village pad rezone. And with that, I'll open the public hearing. Principal Planner Christian Williams will present. Good evening, Christian.
My name is Christian Williams. I'm a principal planner here with the City of Goodyear, and I'm here before you this evening with a rezoning request from Brennan Ray to conduct a rezone on a property within the city. That property is located within Ballpark Village, and for a little bit of context, the site that we will largely be talking about is right here where that blue star is. So the property is within central Goodyear. It's generally at the northeast corner of Bullard Avenue and Estrella Parkway. It is within a PAD that is approximately 284 acres, and that PAD contains multiple land use categories within it. Today, we're going to largely, again, be talking about the portion at the very south end of the property that's about 5 acres, and I'll refer to it throughout this presentation as Lot 33. Currently, that property today is zoned COM within that PAD, which abbreviates basically to commercial. So zooming in a little closer again, you can see the larger PAD here. I did a little zoom in here. That's the fun 5 acres we'll be referring to. But when you talk about the overall PAD, it is just south of the Fulton Homes at Ballpark Village PAD. It is just east of Velux, Estrella Vista, and Avion at Ballpark Village. It is north of the IMSUMET site, and it is generally west of the Phoenix Goodyear Airport. That's fun. All right. So for a quick zoning history on the property, and I'm going to skip the Great Recession and the ballparks being built and all that stuff. We'll jump a little bit forward. So in 2017, after some large land purchases, council approved the Ballpark Village and Ballpark Village South amended final PAD, which amended areas south of basically Lower Buckeye Parkway, and it rezoned those uses from business park and office park to a variety of single-family and multifamily uses. Of note, at that time as well, the lots 28 through 30, which we'll also discuss, had a caveat that would allow them to have drive-through restaurants on those properties. In March 2021, a PAD amendment was processed to modify the densities of those multifamily units on the south. It also modified the setbacks and the heights. And again, that was just the area in this little quadrant here that is Wood Boulevard and Estrella Parkway. In July of 2021, the area that is southeast of Estrella Parkway and Lower Buckeye was added to the PAD, and that was zoned Res MXD, which is effectively residential mixed use, and that grew the PAD size from the 254 acres up to 268 acres. In October of 2022, we're probably getting more into some of the stuff y'all remember. The area that is at the southwest corner of Bullard Avenue and Lower Buckeye Parkway was added to the PAD. Again, that was also zoned Res MXD in order to remove some industrial zoning, and that grew the PAD to its ultimate size today, which is that 284 acres. Today, the rezoning request is to amend Lot 33 from COM to Res MXD to facilitate the development of a spring training and player development housing development, as well as a mixed-use retail center. And the city and the applicant have worked together to address some stipulations that were placed on that Lot 33, or the lots I referred to up here by the MXD4 with the drive-through stipulations on it. So we worked with the applicant, and we are seeking also to remove the drive-through allotments from those lots and allow one single drive-through on the Res MXD lot. So as it relates to other multifamily in the area of Goodyear, between McDowell Road on the north, future State Route 30 on the south, Perryville on the west, and Dysart on the east, effectively our central area, there are 14 existing multifamily communities. One is for an existing baseball team that we have here in the city. 8 are traditional garden style, and 5 are single-family rental. Those are shown in orange. In purple, you'll see that there are 11 under development. 5 of those are garden style. 6 of those are those single-family rental style product. And then shown in yellow, there are 23 areas that have zoning entitlement, which could include multifamily. 11 of those are likely single-family rentals or townhouse style. 9 are likely garden style. 1 will be age restricted, and 1 is part of the city center land holdings that we have possession of. And of note, some of those rezones do have a mix of product. And then shown in blue, there are 6 developments that have shown interest in potentially moving forward, and you would see those in the future if those cases were to continue. And one of those is, again, this star right here, which is the Ballpark Village case, which we call the diamond as well in some applications. So getting into the nitty-gritty here, the applicant is requesting that zoning change from PAD with an underlying of COM to a PAD with an underlying of Res MXD on Lot 30. And again, that would facilitate the development of a mixed-use, horizontal, commercial, and multifamily development. As currently envisioned, again, they would like to do several shop buildings, 1 standalone drive-through, a plaza at the corner, and that art component would be added as a part of the PAD. So a couple of the highlights. If a drive-through is constructed as a conditionally permitted use, it must be coffee, tea, or beverages. It must contain an outdoor patio, which either is right on the player development complex or along Estrella Parkway, and that drive-through would be hidden from the traffic on Estrella Parkway to make it feel a little bit more mixed use. The developer and the city also share a desire to have to really get this area to be more mixed use and pedestrian friendly. The city had looked at this site as a potential opportunity for a trailhead for Bullard Wash, which is literally right here. And when the applicant heard of our desire for that at a certain point in time, they actually agreed to dedicate 5 spaces to the public that could be used for trailhead parking. So they will, as a part of this development, contribute 5 to 20 spaces for trailhead parking open to the public. As an offset for that, or as a means to also incentivize a sit-down restaurant space, the city would count those spaces towards 2 of the restaurant spaces that would be required on this site. Because again, you're going to start drawing in some of that mixed use and multimodal travel. And similar to other developments in the area within Ballpark Village, they will build that Ballpark Village Gateway and art piece at Estrella and Bullard. And that really acts as a southern gateway into this area. If you think about coming out of Estrella, passing Imsumet, this will be the first development you really see. To date, the city has not received any resident opposition, just general inquiries on why did I get a postcard, and staff has evaluated the impacts of this proposed zoning to the greater community. With no major concerns being found, staff recommends you forward an approval recommendation to rezone this property from planned area development with that underlying zoning of COM to a planned area development with the underlying zoning of Res MXD, as set forth in that ordinance. And the applicant is here. They don't have a formal presentation, and I am more than happy to answer any zoning-related questions you might have.
Thank you, Christian. Are there any questions for staff? Christian, is the long-term vision of this project mainly just for the baseball team, or is there a future of using it for general public way off in the distance, or it's just strictly baseball team?
So the zoning does not restrict it to team use. The zoning entitlements allow for a mix or solidly commercial or multifamily. At this present point in time, the applicant is very eager to move forward with half of this site being for the teams. Similar to the other spring training complex, that's a way that they found to make these complexes more successful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would the applicant like to address the commission?
Brennan Ray, 1850 North Central. We agree with staff. We've worked closely with them. That's all I'll say.
Are there any questions for the applicant on this project?
I've not received any, no. And just, and I apologize, I had you turn all your mics on, but we're getting a little feedback. So
Oh,
unless
sure.
you're talking, if you could turn them off. So, thank you. But I know I've not received any speaker cards.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience like to speak on this topic? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And I will need a motion and a second to change this pad from commercial to mixed XD. I have a motion from Commissioner Hegedus and a second from Commissioner Booth. Please put in your votes.
Motion passes.
All right, agenda item number 3, special use permit for an airport. Planner Guadalupe, would that open the public hearing? Planner Guadalupe Ortiz Cortez will present. Thank you, guys. I think this one has a lot of us raising our eyebrows.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commission members, Guadalupe Ortiz Cortez, planner. Before you tonight is a special use permit amendment request for Bishop Airfield Facility. The subject property is located at 9602 West Alabaster Road, north of State Route 238 in the Mobile area, and is shown on the screen by the orange outline. The property is zoned I-1 light industrial. The site is approximately 433 acres. The airfield has been in operation at this location for over 32 years. In 2008, the property was annexed into the city, and a special use permit was approved for the site. At that time, the airfield was used as an air training facility by Lufthansa Airlines. Lufthansa Airlines used the airfield to train its pilots. The airfield is now owned and operated by Bishop Airfield. The applicant is requesting a special use permit amendment to allow Complete Parachute Solutions to continue to use the airfield as a free fall parachute training facility. Currently, the free fall parachute training operation is outside of the scope of the 2008 special use permit. This special use permit amendment would allow their continued use of the airfield and bring the property into compliance with city code. There are no new proposed facilities with this application. The current on-site facilities include an aircraft maintenance hangar, a control tower, 2 aircraft shelters, and a fuel tanker. The special use permit application meets the evaluation criteria established in the zoning ordinance as detailed in the staff report. The applicant indicates that the hours of operation depend on weather conditions. The training operations are held between sunrise to noon, approximately 80% of the time, between 3 a.m. to noon, approximately 15% of the time, and between 7 p.m. and 12 a.m., approximately 5% of the time. The nearest existing residential home is located approximately 1,300 feet from the airport. Considering that the airfield has been used for flight-related operations for over 32 years without complaint, staff does not recommend any restrictions to the hours of operation. The citizen review and public hearing processes were followed. A citizen review meeting was held Thursday, November 10th, 2022 at the Mobile Elementary School, just off of the State Route 238. The meeting was attended by the applicant, Complete Parachute Solutions personnel, and an airport employee as well. To date, staff has not received any inquiries or opposition to the project. The special use permit request meets planning, engineering, and all other city requirements. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission forwards a recommendation of approval to the City Council, subject to the stipulations found in the staff report. Mr. Chairman, Commission members, this concludes my presentation. The applicant is in attendance tonight.
Thank you, Guadalupe. Are there any questions for staff?
A question.
Go ahead.
It says that they had received the notice of violation back in May of 2022, although then you read further on it, they continue to still use that. Is that correct?
Yes, they worked with us to bring the property into compliance, submitted this, the special use permit, and we have been working on this application to this moment.
Okay. So it has been in operation with the free fall parachute training and the 433 acres, which is 2/3 of a mile square, I guess. That's enough room so they don't vary. I don't know what is on the other side of it. Looks like it's pretty wide open. If they would get off site, they're not going to run into any buildings or people, I don't believe. Just for my personal question, because I used to drop people out of an airplane I flew. How high do they go when they do this free fall? Is it 10, 12,000 feet? Probably you're going to say you'd have to ask the applicant.
Yes, you're right, Vice Chairman. I'll
Are
allow
there any
the
other
applicant to answer the question.
questions for staff before we bring the applicant up? Okay. Thank you, Guadalupe. The applicant, please.
Chairman and Commission members, my name is John Rogers. I'm the Vice President of Complete Parachute Solutions, who is a partner in Bishop Airfield. It is a separate LLC from our company. We have been training Department of Defense, government agencies, and our allied nations in the state of Arizona for the past 20 years. We have a training facility in Coolidge, Arizona, with the safest school-held record for training Department of Defense and government agencies and military freefall parachuting. Our company actually designs, manufactures and builds parachutes based on the requirements of Department of Defense and government agencies. And then the unique thing about us is we train them too. We're built of a mix of 50-50 civilian and military. I did 27 years in the military, as most of my employees did as well. And then we incorporate world champion civilians to help balance our training. We typically conduct operations from 13,500 feet above ground level. Rarely will we go up to 18,000 feet. We have worked with the FAA in Phoenix as well as Albuquerque to develop our flight patterns and our climb boxes, not to interfere with the glider port, which is northeast of us, Skydive Phoenix, which is a little bit north by northeast of us, and then down in Coolidge, we have actually worked with Albuquerque because we are on Phoenix Approach. So we've been doing this a little while, and we train our clients and we train Department of Defense on a technique that has been very effective in combat at capturing, killing, or rescuing Americans.
Thank you. Thank you for the information. Are there any other questions for the applicant? How busy is the airport? This is morbid curiosity for myself.
Bishop?
Yes.
So right now, we're not as busy as we'd like to be.
Okay.
The goal is to get our special use permit approved so that we can expand, which will require another one in the future. Typically, we run 5 to 6 courses, Mike? A year? So maybe 6 months of the year. At Coolidge, we're running about 9 courses a year.
Okay.
It is a very effective technique nowadays that Department of Defense and the government agencies are using to accomplish our mission.
Wow. Do you compete with any other flying organizations out of Bishop, or is it just you guys, or just you guys?
So we purchased the airport from Lufthansa.
Okay.
And part of the problem is we purchased it with Dillon Aero in the beginning, and Dillon Aero was the majority shareholder. So we're learning the process. I apologize. We're working really hard to catch up.
Sure.
And we actually bought Dillon Aero out. So now it's solely ours.
Oh, wow.
But there's a bunch of MOAs. So the F-35s take a lot of northern Arizona out of the picture. To the south, you have a lot of the smaller fighter aircraft training out there. And we try and fit in a little niche at Marana and Pinell Air Park is another air training facility. One's used by the Special Mission Units or the National Mission Forces. And then Skydive Arizona is used by a lot of the international clients that can't afford to use a private training facility.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, I'm taking lessons out of Fly Goodyear, and Lufthansa's there and Aviate's there, so there's a lot of things going on in Goodyear at the airport, so.
Yes, sir. And we're actually in negotiations with Lufthansa. They've lost some of their training areas, and they're looking to start coming back and training with us. But we're trying to figure out how to do it safely and consciously. You know, not overfly populated areas and not interfere with our operations.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the presentation. We appreciate that.
And I used to drop Air Force pararescue men out of the plane from halo, 25,000 feet down to real low altitude, so that was always fun. So
Thank you, sir. You may have dropped me in the past. You know, I've jumped long ago and far away.
And thank you for your service, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any speaker cards?
I have not received any.
Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing. And I'll have a motion and a second. I have a motion from Commissioner Hamilton and a second from Commissioner Wang. Please put in your votes.
Motion passes.
All right. Agenda item number 4 is the Circle K use permit. Open the public hearing. Guadalupe Ortiz Cortez will present again.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, Guadalupe Ortiz Cortez, planner. The request before you is for a use permit for a Circle K. The subject property is located at the southeast corner of West Indian School Road and North 166th Avenue. The property is shown on the screen by the orange outline. That's here. The property is zoned PAD and has an underlying C2 general commercial designation. The site is approximately 4.3 acres. The Circle K is proposed to go in a commercial center called the Triangle. The master site plan for the center was approved earlier this year. The center includes a Filiberto's restaurant and a couple other vacant pads. The area that is known as the Triangle is the area going east of North 166th Avenue, south of Indian School Road, and until this wall with the RV parking for the Pebble Creek neighborhood. The applicant proposes a 5,200 square foot convenience store, a 4,600 square foot fuel canopy for 7 gasoline fueling stations, and a 1,600 square foot fueling canopy providing 4 diesel fueling stations located here. The applicant is providing the required vehicle parking spaces and is providing 7 semi-truck parking spaces. The proposed elevations include colors and materials consistent with those colors and materials palette approved with the master site plan. Also shown on this elevation is the trellis structure that the applicant is providing over outdoor seating. The proposed canopies for the gasoline and diesel stations match the proposed convenience store building elevations. The applicant meets the use permit and convenience use evaluation criteria established in the zoning ordinance as detailed in the staff report. The staff believes that the Circle K is a compatible use with those uses permitted in the surrounding area. The nearest residential home is approximately 550 feet from the subject property. The Circle K proposes 24-hour operations. Given that the proposed location is near the Loop 303 and within a commercial center, staff does not recommend any restrictions on the hours of operation. A traffic study was submitted with the use permit application. The traffic study found that the proposed development did not anticipate to cause detrimental impacts to the surrounding roadwork network. The citizen review and public hearing processes were followed. At the time that the staff report was finalized, staff had received 1 resident inquiry regarding the diesel fueling. After the report was finalized, staff received 2 emails, one from a Pebble Creek resident and another from the executive director at Refinery Christian Church, The church director expressed concerns with the traffic on 166th Avenue and semi-trucks potentially entering the church's property. And the resident, the contacted staff, expressed concern with the potential noise disruption the trucks may cause the Pebble Creek neighborhood. The use permit, as mentioned, meets the evaluation criteria in this zoning ordinance and meets all other city requirements. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission forwards a recommendation of approval to the City Council, subject to the stipulations found in the staff report. Mr. Chairman, Commission members, this concludes my presentation. The applicant is in attendance tonight.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff at this point?
Was there any concerns about light to the residents?
Thank you, Commissioner Hegedus, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. Staff Did, the lighting zone for the property is Zone 2, so the applicant is subject to those zoning ordinance standards as established in the zoning ordinance, and thus require that there is full cutoff lighting. But staff did not receive any specific concerns specific to lighting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Guadalupe, at 166 in Indian School, is there a traffic signal light right there?
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton, Mr. Chairman, commissioners. Yes, there are traffic signals at Indian School and 166th Avenue.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? I had a question about the distance approximate from this triangle to the Pebble Creek neighborhood. And there seems to be just some blank land just to the northwest of the Pebble Creek neighborhood. So the distance is one question. The second question would be, what is that land for, and what will that be used for if it's zoned for something in particular?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. The distance between the property line to the Pebble Creek neighborhood wall here, the residence, where the residence begin, it's approximately 550 feet or more, depending on as you progress along from the property line north and south along the neighborhood. The property between the Pebble Creek neighborhood and the subject property is zoned PAD, and the use so far has been for the RV parking. However, perhaps it was a year ago that the property or a portion of the property was rezoned for the use of pickleball courts, and I believe permits have been issued, so that is in the works.
Okay, so pickleball courts are gonna go in between.
It's right here, right below where that, see, that's the wall. There's gonna be 16 pickleball
Oh,
courts
and,
right there.
oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Which will run 6 a.m. to 10
That's-
p.m. at night.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Is anything popping up based on those? Okay. Would the applicant like to speak? Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Jody Hamill. I represent Circle K. I work for Land Development Consultants, 11811 North Tatum Boulevard, Phoenix. I would just like to give a little bit more color to the comments that we received from the neighbors and give a little bit more details as to what is in our package for the use permit application. Concerning the neighbors' inquiries received concerning the diesel pumps and the truck parking that is on the southern part of the parcel. Do I just go forward? So there are 4 diesel pumps on the southern portion of the parcel. Those are approximately 800 feet from the furthest north parcel.
No worries.
Oh, thank you, that's much better.
So, yeah, if you wanted to leave it on that map, just prior to this one, where it kind of blows up so we can get an idea how far it is from the, so it'd be right about there.
Right, the diesel canopy will be approximately right there. That's about 800 feet from the property line, the closest property line to the southeast of the residential neighbors.
Okay.
I know on our site plan, it shows that we're having 7 parking spaces for vehicles, for trucks. Those are not intended to be overnight or long-term parking at all. The intention is to have a truck driver who's going to come in, park and fuel, and then, or just fuel, and then possibly park, come into the store, get a beverage, get a snack, possibly walk over to one of the other quick-serve restaurants that will be on the parcel, and then return to their vehicle and depart. So the store does not itself offer any driver facilities such as a lounge or showers or anything like that. It's a regular Circle K store like you see on McDowell and Pebble Creek Parkway.
Okay, thank you.
The other concerns that we had from the use to the south, the church to the south, they were concerned about the level of service in this intersection of vehicles stacking to turn into the Circle K and the rest of the Triangle development. So the entire overall parcel will have 3 driveways to access the Triangle along Indian School Road. There will be 1 entrance along 166th Avenue. So the majority of the traffic that will be coming into the Triangle will be serviced off of Indian School Road. We only expect about 25% of the traffic to enter off of 166th Avenue. It is 166th Avenue is a private drive and consists of 1 travel lane in each northbound and southbound direction. But we only expect about 25% of the traffic to come in off of 166th. There will be a exit to the south that will be exit only. So trucks coming in, fueling at the pumps can leave directly and turn straight around to the north. The church staff also was concerned about trucks that are already coming into the development that are probably from this large UPS delivery facility. They would get maybe, we all make wrong turns, right? So they've had instances of trucks coming and circulating their parking area and departing. The nice thing about the Circle K location is that they'll know right away that they've made a wrong turn, and this would be a great bailout for them to just turn in, come out, exit out, go right back north to get back where they were heading originally. So, so we think that this is a great solution that might actually alleviate some of the problems that the church has been experiencing. So Circle K also proposes directional signage at all of the driveway entrances on all of the frontages that will be clear in colors, in red markings, and we will go through the sign that will be approved through the sign approval process to be directional signs. This is an in, this is an out, this is out on exit only. So it will be well marked with signs on site, and we will work with city transportation staff to also identify any off-site signs that they deem necessary to make sure that vehicles are exiting in the right direction and directed back up to Indian School, and so that they're not trying to take a left out and go anywhere else. So Circle K appreciates staff's recommendations for the approval of the use permit for the convenience use, and we look forward to working with staff as we go through the final construction drawing process. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the applicant? I did have a question in regards to air braking or the releasing. I'm not 100% sure what the term is, but when trucks stop, they release their brakes, and there's noise that causes that is from that. What is done to alleviate that when you're close to residential neighborhoods or close to a church, those type of things? Does that noise travel, and is it a concern?
There is noise from a vehicle engine operating and the air brakes when they set their air brakes. It's unpredictable. It depends on the level of the load in the vehicle. So it's not a consistent, every truck that pulls up is going to have to make that loud air brake release sound. And honestly, for this location, there's a good chance that the majority of vehicles coming into this location will be box trucks, or picture your favorite Amazon delivery truck that might be diesel operated or other operated. The majority of the larger 18-wheelers usually are along the freeways in other service locations. So this will be a one-off, and a lot more of the smaller service truck vehicles like the box trucks that you see in your neighborhoods.
Thank you. Questions? Okay. Are there any speaker cards?
I've not received any.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak on this matter? Okay. With that, I will close the public hearing. And I will need a motion and a second to have a use permit for a convenience store, Circle K, with a gas station. I have a motion by Vice Chairman Clymer and a second by Commissioner Wang. Please put in your vote.
Motion passes.
All right. Moving on to business. We have a training session from Planning Manager Steve Correcchia. Exciting stuff, I'm sure.
Always exciting, Mr.
Always.
Chairman. Good evening. Figured this could be appropriate, especially given the last item that Guadalupe spoke of. I know the commission, you always hear items at the front end, the zoning type items, use permits, general plan amendments, text amendments like what we did for the landscape ordinance. And you make your vote, and then the project moves on through the various processes with the city. And I know you're familiar with a lot of what goes on and from what your role is here, but I figured it could be appropriate just to go over something really quickly here. And again, you're looking at when you see an item, especially with Guadalupe's item, you saw a preliminary site plan. You see some conceptual building elevations of what Circle K was going to do. And so the next step in that process, and we have this kind of quick outline here. So you're kind of start with the yellow and the zoning. Next step for Circle K will be site planning. And then just real quick, they'll go then after site plan through construction plans, their engineering and building plans, inspections, and then hopefully certificate of occupancy and open to the public. So site plans. So what's going to happen now for Circle K now after commission and council have made their decision is they'll submit for a site plan to Development Services. And some of the things we look at here, I just kind of outlined a few. Again, we're going to be looking at the site, is the location of that fuel canopy, the Circle K, their access points. We're going to make sure all of that meets our engineering standards, our zoning standards. We're going to be looking at the building. Does it meet our setbacks, building heights? The design, did it meet the colors and such for the center, which Guadalupe did tell you that the initial design did meet what the center had, the master site plan, what it had designated for the center, that it was consistent. We'll also do that again with this site plan review. The landscaping, that will be something we'll be looking at with the site plan and then further with construction plans. Again, just making sure we got the right amount of trees that we're looking at. With the landscape ordinance we just passed, we'll be looking for turf. We'll be removing that if it's just ornamental for use like this. But again, we're just making sure that we have the proper plantings, trees, and shrubs that are required within this area. You'll also see there's a civil engineering aspect to site planning. So even at the site plan stage, we'll be getting grading and drainage, utilities, preliminary water sewer reports. The biggie we'll get also is a traffic study. So not only did they submit one with the use permit you just saw, we'll see it again, confirm access and circulation, again for Circle K. And on this right side, this is an example submittal checklist, and I used a Discount Tire that we are looking at right now. And you can just see it. This is a long list of items that staff will review during the site plan. So again, just wanted to assure the commission that after you make a decision, staff does look further into it. We'll take any stipulations that the commission or council might add, and we'll make sure that we'll look through these items, make sure it's meeting our codes and ordinances. And just a little sneak peek, this is what a site plan, this is the full site plan for a proposed Discount Tire over by Cotton Flower Marketplace, over there at Cotton and Yuma. Discount Tire is proposed there. And you can see it's very detailed document. Staff is really, we're getting into the weeds now with this kind of document. And you'll usually see something like this with your applications. We take it a step further with all of the details we're looking at. Fully dimensioned, everything called out, so staff can review this. And again, like Circle K, you saw preliminary elevations. Now these will be the final elevations we're looking at and approving, making sure the design meets the approved colors, materials for the center, the heights are okay, we've got proper doors and windows and such. And then looking at that landscape again, here we get down to every tree and shrub that we're looking at for Discount Tire, making sure they meet all our requirements. And also here is a grading and drainage plan. So again, our engineers are looking at this very closely. When it rains, are we going to have any ponding? No, we want to make sure that it drains, everything's going to the right place, all the grades are set. So again, we're looking at, even at the site plan stage, we're getting very detailed. After this site plan approval, then we start getting into the construction plans where, all right, now we're really getting detailed with that, and then to inspections and C of O. But with this step, with these slides, just kind of want to show you, give you a flavor of kind of some of the things staff is looking at site plan. That when you make a decision and maybe a stipulation that you attach to it, we're looking at that, making sure that that moves forward and we're accomplishing all the goals that you're setting forth here for us. With that, Mr. Chairman, hopefully that was short and provides you a little aspect of kind of what comes after, you know, all the hard work you put into something, how we take it and move forward with it. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer, but that was it. I was just hoping to give you a quick overview of the site plan process.
Thank you, Steve. That was really informative. Are there any questions from the?
Steve, I have one. In the case of the Circle K, you actually review emergency things like spillage, is gasoline, a lot of storage. Is that part of your engineering review process or construction process, or? You know,
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Commission members, at the site plan review, we're looking at, all right, access, where are things located, the fuel pumps, things like that. We'll get into those details with the construction plans.
Okay.
So not at maybe the site plan stage, but at the next stage, yes.
Steve, so what is, like, just a rough guess, like the time frame? Let's say once the the commission and also the council, they approve this. So from there, what is the estimate time frame to complete the project, just on average?
Well, that's a good question, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. So the zoning process, use permits, rezones, we usually quote 4 to 6 months. For a site plan, we usually quote 3 to 5 months-ish. Sometimes, you see this as very sequential. Sometimes we do try to run these as concurrent as much as possible. So if we did have a zoning application like a use permit or a use permit, we'll run a site plan together with it. If they go sequential, yes, you do have several months here, and it keeps going on down the line. Staff, we are always looking at ways to make it more efficient. So that is something we are aware of and trying to do always.
Thank you. So another question. So a permit. So how long does it take for them to get permit? Like, because I know different city have different, wait time. Because I know, like, my job would deal with a lot of permits. I know the Scottsdale does take a long time. So what about the city of Goodyear? What is the time frame for a permit?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that's getting a little outside my wheelhouse. I think it's 4 weeks of review, Katie, or?
It depends where you start the process. I'm not sure I understand. I mean, the permit is issued when construction plans are approved. So between that blue and green step is when they'll get the permit, which authorizes them to start construction. So a typical project, such as the Quick Trip, Our goal is to try and get them through the whole process in about 180 days. We're working on process improvements. If they do the site plan and use permit concurrently, if their project doesn't require what we call off-site, so say major roadway improvements next to their site, this is more of a what we would call a pad site. We're trying to get those through in about 6 months so that they can, to get their permit.
Good, thank you.
Kind of to piggyback on that question, do we compare well, maybe, to other cities in being, I know how hard Goodyear works in being efficient. And for the past, ever since I've been on planning and zoning, staff has worked new processes and tweaked things in the process to make it more efficient. Have you seen that really bear fruit comparative to like other cities?
Mr. Chairman, I believe Katie can probably answer this well. I'll just say that anything I've been involved with is usually positive feedback in terms of how Goodyear, usually I've seen responses of that went well, that went faster than I thought. There are always hiccups sometimes, but generally I would say that it's been good feedback from what I've heard.
I'll add, it can actually be difficult to get the data from other cities. Not all cities collect the data in the same way we do, but it does bring to mind, we as a department just conducted a customer satisfaction survey. We were just seeking this feedback, and I think one of our questions was satisfaction with the speed of the process. So we'll bring that information for maybe our next training or staff communication and bring that information to you of what our customers are saying.
You're like, no, I don't want to talk about that. No, that answers my question. I'd like to just know where we rate in terms of development, and I know that you guys are constantly looking at things to make them more efficient. I mean, you've gone to several, retreats where you're trying to figure out these things and how to streamline it. So I know that the city is doing well with that. Just didn't know if that was still more tweaking or where we stand on that. I had a question in regards to, I noticed that we as planning and zoning sometimes get the elevations and sometimes get the way some things look, but a lot of times the applicant or staff will say, this is just conceptual, do not put much bearing into this is the way how it could look. I just didn't know if, when it gets to council, there's obviously a more robust presentation, but is there a way to see more elevations, or is there the elevations and the way color schemes, et cetera, those type of things, that's more in like after it goes to council? Is that correct? Or does council see more than we see in terms of color schemes, what this will present when you drive by it, that type of thing?
Mr. Chairman, commission members, barring any applicant changes between now and when, and we'll use Circle K, between now and when they go to council in a couple of weeks, Guadalupe will show them the same elevations that you saw. So they will basically get the same presentation. Guadalupe will take the same PowerPoint to them, update it with your actions, but it will be the same development plan and elevation. So they'll see the same thing you do. It will maybe get more refined once we get to the site plan. Mm-hmm. And there they will lock down colors, the building design, make any tweaks, maybe like we had to move a door here and such. So that's why we always had that disclaimer. These are conceptual. They are close to usually what we end up seeing and approving. So it is, some changes happen, but again, we'll show council the same thing that you saw at site plan. We'll probably start with that. It'll go through some modifications till we get to the final. So there is a little bit of work that gets done. And I should say to that, Mr. Chairman, if you were the commission, when we do show you these elevations, especially, if you have direction or thoughts, we're always open to hearing them. So that's, I mean, that's why we do show them
Yes.
to you.
We-
So,
Yeah, I know I appreciate when I see color schemes, because, you know, all of us love seeing beautiful buildings in Goodyear. Not saying you guys don't, but I know that we like to be assured that we know what the end product probably is gonna look like versus, I get it, the planning and zoning part of our position is making sure it's legal, make sure this is correct legally, but just also the aesthetic. But more and more presentations have had aesthetics included in them from the applicant, which has been very nice. So I do appreciate that. Any other statements or questions? Thank you, this was very informative. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you for your hard work. Staff is to be commended always. All right, besides this communication, are there any other staff communications?
I had a couple items. There were 4 items at the March Planning and Zoning Commission. The Lux Locker special use permit, 10 Goodyear sign package, and the La Privada preliminary plat were all approved by City Council. The Celebration Plaza is going to be considered at the next regular meeting on April 24th, along with the items that were on tonight's agenda. And just a reminder, those start at 5 p.m. now. And then also at the last council meeting, just this past Monday on April 10th, City Council approved a change to the city code, and it impacts the preliminary plat process. So preliminary plats are now going to be approved administratively rather than going to the Planning and Zoning and City Council for approval. Now, you might wonder why we didn't bring that forward to you. And that's because all the subdivision regulations are in the city code, and the city code is administered strictly by City Council, so those changes go to council directly. We had taken a work session to them, I think it was back in October, and we had let you guys know about that work session with ideas for improvement, and at that work session, council had given us the direction to make the city code change, so we were bringing it forward to them. So talking about these process improvements, this change is gonna shave 1 to 2 months off the preliminary plat process. That's the major reason we're doing it. I was also looking at the numbers, and if I remember, currently there's about 75 hours of staff time it takes to get a preliminary plat through the process, and that's gonna be reduced by 40% to 40-some hours, because that's how much time we invest bringing these things. I mean, if you can see the staff members just here at the meeting, as we go through these items, it can add up, the staff hours add up when you have multiple people working. So you will not see preliminary plats anymore. So again, what it does is it aligns this with the process Steve just went through, the site plan process, which a preliminary plat is like a site plan for the residential side. We're just making sure the plat meets all the existing codes and ordinances. So it just makes it all the more important that when we're looking at zoning changes, that is the time to bring up your comments and concerns. Is there enough, park space? Is design a, concern? Street layout, traffic concerns, all those things we go through with the rezoning. And then when the preliminary plat comes in, it's staff's job to make sure that plat meets all those standards that were set during the zoning process.
But we will not see, like, if something is already zoned, residential or mixed residential or multifamily, we won't see those preliminary plats anymore, which we used to in the past.
Correct.
Once again, staff making things more efficient. There you go, to my point earlier. All right, the next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting will be held on May 10th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at Goodyear City Hall Council Chambers. There being no further business to discuss, this meeting is adjourned.